Ladies and gentlemen, warning, huge PSA that I'm going to put out there. Welcome back, Strongman Personal Finance. Your investments are about to plunge in value. They are about to go down on a vertical line. And you're going to be crapping your pants because you're going to check your brokerage account. And you're going to see that your ETF or your mutual fund just randomly dropped. And then you're going to look at the stock market and you're going to be like, oh, I don't understand. The S&P 500 is up 5% in one day because it's U.S. stocks, bro. But my U.S. stock market actively managed fund is down. What happened? Once again, let me remind you that every time a company or mutual fund or anything pays a distribution, its value drops by the amount of the distribution. Now, at the end of the year, what basically all mutual funds do and index funds do is you get a massive distribution. Now, for example, I have the VT ETF and I have the VT WAX mutual fund. VT WAX is the mutual fund version of VT. With VT WAX, at the end of, or every 3 months, they pay a dividend. So you get some kind of dividend distribution. Every time you get a dividend distribution, the value of the fund drops by the amount of the dividends that are distributed. Why? Because if you take cash out of a jar, what the cash that's still in the jar is, what is the jar worth? If you have $100 in a jar, you take out $5. What is the jar worth? It's worth $95, right? No, it's not. Dividend, that's income. Yeah, it's worth $95. Shut up. Okay, it's the same thing with a mutual fund. Now, at the end of the year, what these mutual funds, index funds, whatever, what they do is they distribute capital gains. Because within the fund, they're buying and selling, and people are redeeming shares, and they're rebalancing, and the fund incurs capital gains. But in order for the fund to not be taxed at the fund level, there's a rule where they have to distribute all of those proceeds, those gains, those dividends to the shareholders. And all that distribution comes out at the end of the year. So when you log into your brokerage account, if you have a mutual fund, you're going to see a pretty significant drop whenever your fund, I think it's the ex-dividend date or whatever. But at a certain point, and you can call your broker and ask, you're going to see your fund drop in value. I'm here to tell you that's because they are distributing probably the year-end dividends and all of the capital gains, if there are any, to you, the shareholder, because they are required to do that. That is what helps the fund avoid getting taxed at the fund level. You don't want the fund to be taxed at the fund level, okay? That's all that's happening. So once again, it's a reminder that dividends are basically worthless because the value of the investment drops by the amount of the dividend. But you should reinvest it 100% because the fund's value drops. But if you reinvest the money, you get more shares and your total holdings, the dollar amount invested, is exactly the same. Now, unfortunately, if you don't have it in a tax advantage account, which is what I say you should max all the time, I just say that. I just say that for no reason. You're going to have to pay taxes. That's right. You're going to get capital gains distributions. You're going to get dividend distributions. Some are going to be ordinary. Some are going to be qualified. And at the end of the year, in tax season, you're going to get this form 1099. Usually it's a 1099 consolidated. Look in that form. You're going to see dividends, interest, capital gains. All of that is going to be in there. And when you input that into your tax software, I want you to see what happens to your tax liability. It goes up. That's right. Because if it's inside a taxable account, obviously, tax brackets come into play and there's all sorts of stuff that comes into play. But generally, you're going to pay tax on distributions in a taxable account. Now, if it's in a tax advantage account, you don't have to worry about it. So when you're paying taxes this year because you bought these high dividend yielding cloud funds that you love because you love paying taxes, number one, consider that if you had that investment in a tax advantage account, you would not have to pay dividends. Number two, you wouldn't have to go through the freaking grind of reporting it on your taxes. You know what I do for my 401k for my taxes? Nothing. And that's actually a big thing, trust me, because either you're doing your own taxes or you're paying somebody to do it for you, okay? So the fund's value drops by the amount of the dividend, unless it's even in or outside of a tax advantage account. But if it's in a tax advantage account, you don't pay taxes on it, okay? That's a big freaking deal. And number 3, I highly recommend you reinvest it, okay? Because I know you think you're generating passive income, but your fund's value is dropping by the amount of the dividend distribution, okay? So you're going to see, if you see anybody posting about stuff like this, like, why did my fund drop? They're clowns. They don't understand what's going on, okay? Which is probably the vast majority of people out there. But don't panic. When your fund pays a distribution, it's going to drop, okay? Everything's going to be okay, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Hope you enjoyed my lazy video, and I'll see you guys later. Cheers!